very special guest joining us, Nancy Crochiere, joining us from just north of Greater Boston, Massachusetts, celebrated humor columnist, novelist, and author of this incredible comic novel, Graceland, coming up right here on the Jim Masters Show series, our entertainment lifestyle celebrity talk show series, where we are bringing back the lost art of conversation. So good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us, everybody watching all around the United States, Canada, all throughout North America, South America. We say hello to you as well. All of our viewers and faithful Lovity fans who watch us in Europe and Africa and Asia and Australia and New Zealand, the Arctic Circle, Antarctica. Yes, all over this big blue marble. We welcome you from wherever you're watching. Thanks for all the love, support, enthusiasm as our shows continue to grow, inching on almost 1,000 episodes in just 3 years' time at the time of this episode today. Thanks for all the love. You can find us, of course, right here on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, where we house and archive all of the episodes. If you ever miss an episode or you join us late, don't fret, don't worry, because you can see it all archived in our JMS archive, our library of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Now, if you would like to participate in the show that's happening right now, this episode, with a very special guest, author Nancy Crochiere, guess what? You can do that. You can comment while the show is on. How do you do that? Well, we have what we call the JMS Lovity Hall chat room. That's exclusive for folks who subscribe to our YouTube channel. Easy to do, doesn't cost anything. You just hit that word subscribe on the YouTube channel, and you're going to be a part of the JMS Lovity Squad, the Lovity family. Folks who really enjoy, celebrate, and support all the guests, all the content, everything that we do here at JMS Lovity Hall, as you guys call it, and the Jim Masters Show. So really cool stuff. Another busy day, always busy on the radio, on television, writing scripts, interviewing, hosting shows, working in the industry, and then popping in here to Lovity Hall and hosting the show and producing it for all of you. Thanks again for all the Lovity. You can also find me on social media. Some folks have been asking. You can find me at Jim Masters TV on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Share the links to our series on your social media as well. And thanks to all of you who have been doing that. And we love it when you leave a comment on our YouTube channel as well under the episodes. And if you enjoy this episode and all the episodes you enjoy, thumbs up like. There's a thumbs up icon on the YouTube channel on all the episodes. Definitely click that. We would love it. That also helps the series reach many more people around the world. Yeah. So a lot of us, how can we help? How can we support? Well, a lot of different ways. You can do super chat, super emoji, super stickers when the show is on in the Lovity Hall chat room. You can do that. Or at any time, there's a little heart icon called Super Thanks. And you can do that as well during the course of any of the episodes. Whether they're live or you're watching them later archived, the little heart icon under every episode on the YouTube channel, click that. That helps support all the content, all these great episodes here. So thanks for joining us again. Really cool to have you here. And we are going to talk about this really exciting new novel. And Nancy's very excited about it because this is something that is literally hot off the presses. She's been doing this type of work for a long time as a celebrated humor columnist in Massachusetts, and we're very excited to talk more about her incredible work. She wrote a humor column about family life for Massachusetts newspapers for some 13 years, and her collection of those columns, titled The Motherlode, was a finalist for Foreword Reviews Book of the Year in Humor and the Independent Publishers of New England 2014 Book Award. A graduate of Middlebury College, she earned a master's degree in English and literature from the University of Minnesota. She's an alumna of GrubStreet's novel Incubator program and worked as a development editor for various educational publishers. Her essays have appeared in the Boston Globe, Writer's Digest, and on WBUR's blog as well. She began her fiction career when her daughters were young by penning creative notes to excuse their tardiness at school. How ingenious is that, right? With her girls now grown, she lives north of Boston with her husband, a lawyer, and a marathoner, and the houseplants as well that could use more attention. This is she's been writing for years, but this is her first novel, and it's really exciting. She's delighting readers all over with her humorous and relatable accounts with this particular novel. And best-selling authors all over the country have been praising this as hugely fun, fresh, and zesty, irresistible, addictive, and utterly entertaining. Yeah, it's incredible. And we're talking about Graceland. You can see it right there on the screen. Here are three generations of women who are certain to charm and surprise readers. Olivia, an ailing former soap star who longs to see Graceland one more time. Hope, a people pleaser who can't seem to please either her mother or daughter. And Dylan, a rebellious teenage activist consumed by unanswered questions about her father. And when Hope refuses to drive Olivia from Boston to Graceland, Olivia wrangles Dylan to take her by promising she can meet her mystery father there, not knowing that Hope signed an agreement with the girl's father to never reveal his identity and never return to Memphis. Hope and her cousin George, who proudly cross-dresses as Jordan, must chase them down to keep them safe and protect Hope's secret. Chaos of all kinds ensues, and the truth is revealed in ways both hilarious and heartbreaking, and all three women seek and ultimately find forgiveness, understanding, and of course, perfectly named, grace. We're so excited to have Nancy on the show. Here's a closer shot of the actual book, and Nancy will be showing the book to us as well. Isn't it a cool cover? And there they are on their way to Graceland, and really cool stuff. So we're going to welcome Nancy. Again, if you'd like to comment during the show, just subscribe to the YouTube channel, Gym Masters TV right now. It doesn't cost anything to do that. And you can comment as the show is airing, say hello to one another. A lot of you have become friends as a result of the Gym Masters show series, and we love that. So stop by, say hi, and let us know where you're watching from. We love that as well. And now let's welcome Nancy to the show. Nancy, welcome to the Gym Masters Show Live series. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Jim.
The pleasure is all mine. And what I love too is you go the extra mile. You're a fan of our series and you've been watching our episodes, and I hope you've been enjoying them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I very much enjoyed a couple episodes I was watching just today. And you were interviewing John Davidson, a person
Wow.
from I remember from growing up that I haven't seen in a long time. It was wonderful to see what he was up to. And yes, you were talking to somebody who wrote a book. I'm sorry, I forget the name. Somebody who wrote a book about the Partridge Family, which was
Yes.
another big part of my youth
Oh,
growing
yes.
up.
That's Johnny Ray Miller, the author. Yes. Yeah. That was cool. And John Davidson is just up the road a piece from Massachusetts. They're in New Hampshire, in Sandwich, New Hampshire, with his new venue, Club Sandwich, and he's a Massachusetts boy, originally from Massachusetts, John. So
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah, I
cool,
didn't
huh?
I didn't realize that he was so close. It's wonderful to know that. I'll have to
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah, if you go up there, tell him Jim Masters sent you. He'd love to hear that. You watch the episode, he's a real entertainer's entertainer, isn't he?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
We had
A great showman,
yeah,
just yeah.
and
Show
that's
person, I guess. Show person, we should say now.
show person exactly on so many different levels. So you are a celebrated columnist and writer and been doing that for a number of years in Massachusetts. What first inspired you to go into writing? And of course, with your humorous take on life, it reminds me a little bit of sort of like, of course, the iconic Irma Bombeck,
Mhm.
thinking about the craziness of life and the things we all go through and dealing with it in a humorous way. And we talk a lot on this show about light love and levity or levity. So when you come at things from a humorous approach, it can be very disarming. Where did all of this sort of begin for you, Nancy?
Well, I have always just liked to laugh, liked to be with people who make me laugh. I tell people, and it's very true, that I married my husband because he was somebody who just made me laugh, and it's a perspective on life, and I don't know if it was sort of genetic with me, but I think that's where my humor columns came from, is that whatever craziness that swirled around me as a working mother trying to, take two girls to soccer matches and field hockey games and music lessons and, tossing salads while in the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through. All that stuff sort of became the fodder for my humor columns.
How does how does one toss a salad in the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through? How
It
did you
was
master that, Nancy?
it was much more sanitary than it seems. Yeah,
Yeah,
the salad was all put together, but I
yeah,
was just scooping it,
yeah.
tossing it with a dressing as they were handing me the coffee for my other daughter, or the sandwich, whatever I was getting her while we were going off on in three different directions. It's modern family life is
Is
it's full of craziness, and
have
it was fun to write about it.
it is because it's so relatable. People can identify with some of the things that you touch upon, and especially with the column for so long in Massachusetts. When you have things that are relatable like that people could say, you know what, that sort of happened to us as well. We went through a drive-through and we had a similar situation, or the kitchen sink overflowed and we had to deal
Yep.
with the craziness of that happened. And I love stuff like that. I love things where, there's a humor nature to it, underpinning to things that happen in our lives that we have to go through. And so what for you was the door opening opportunity to actually start writing the column?
Well, that's a good question. I think I had always written. I had always, ever since I've been joking to people that I blame my fifth grade teacher because she praised my poem, "A Thermometer's View of Winter," and she put it up on the bulletin board. And I think from that moment on, I got attention that I had never gotten before, and I wanted to be a writer. So. Yeah, that's where it started. And so while my kids were little, I just didn't find time. I would start, things. I would start a play or a script, but I didn't seem to ever have the time to devote to it. So the short pieces, the 700 word pieces that were, that I could write for the newspaper, that was just a perfect length. And so that's how it started. I think it started one day. My girls and I was taking them to school, and they went outside, and you know how you collect your trash along the curb. Well, my daughter saw a broken down laundry basket that had, that I tried to slip out there so that I could get rid of it, because of course children don't want to get rid of anything, and this was no different. They started saying, "Mom, you can't get rid of that laundry basket," and we could use it for forts, or we could put it on top of our heads and make a very stylish hat or something, and so that was my very first column. It was called "Let's Talk Trash," and
Yeah,
it was about the fact that, and it isn't, of course, um, limited to children. Relationships can be like that too. You can
yes,
have a partner who is just determined to throw everything away, like my husband is, and you
yeah.
yourself might be if not a hoarder, a little bit more of a saver.
Yeah, especially the sentimental nature of things too. If you are very close to the item because you're close to the person. I remember as a kid too, and I can relate to that. I remember as a kid when my mother would do the big spring cleanings and fall cleanings that
Yes,
everybody, I don't even know if people really do that, but it was a
not
major
anymore.
event. I mean, the screens would come off the windows and all the windows are open and the curtain rods were down and the curtains were going to the dry cleaner and everything was a big thing. And then in the garage where the cans were, there were things that were being thrown out and tossed out. And I would go in and I would do the same thing as your family. Wait, we can't throw that out. Why are you well, because we don't use it anymore, Jim, or we don't, or Jimmy back then.
No.
We don't use it anymore, Jimmy, or part of it's broken, or yeah, but we can, I can understand that, especially if it's something. It's really interesting. We were in Florida just a couple weeks ago for my sister's birthday and for Mother's Day. We were there for about 12 days because they sold the house they had, my folks in New York, out east on Long Island, for many, many years, the house, and they had a home built in Florida. And when I go into the kitchen, just like I did as a kid at our house in New York, I always went in the kitchen looking for this really cool toaster, 2-slicer, not a 4-slicer, a toaster that my mother's mother, my grandmother Esther, gave my mother in the 60s when she shopped at G. Fox department store in downtown Hartford, Connecticut. And she gave it to my mother as a gift. That's the family toaster all these years later. That toaster, which has never been repaired, rewired, there's not a scratch on it, still operates like a gem, is still in the kitchen, now in the kitchen since 2006 in Florida, but has been a part of the family, our family, all these years. And as a kid, it's got that modern sort of stainless steel 60s design to it. Really, really cool. And just the comfort of going into our family kitchen all these years later in Florida, and mom is still making toast from that toaster her mother gave her that I always saw as a kid. There's something so incredibly comforting about that. And I've already got dibs, I said, of anything, the toaster, because it's just sort of there's just a relationship that's there. And I think it's just a cool thing, little things like that, a toaster.
And it is amazing how some of those appliances from that era, they did last forever. And sadly, we don't see that very much anymore.
No, exactly. Was there anything in your folks' house growing up that, you always looked for, that just brought you a source of comfort as a kid?
Well, that's an interesting question. I will say that when my mother passed away, that she had one of those old-fashioned desks, and I don't know, there's probably a name for it. It's kind of got a slanted top that opens up, and it's got drawers underneath it. It's got a ton of little cubby holes in it. And I'm a organizer, so I just always loved that desk. And when my mother passed away, that was the one thing that I wanted to keep, and still have it, and will have it until the day I go and pass it on. Pass it on to somebody else. Yeah.
My uncle had one of those too, and he originally hailed from Massachusetts, from Duxbury,
Mm-hmm.
and they lived in Connecticut. It's a roll top desk, right? So you pull and the top part just goes in and it's curved, and then everything is in that. Those are very cool desks, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I had a little roll top desk like that, or my sister did, and I used it for a number of years. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. This is the one that was my mother's. It's not, it didn't roll like that, but it opened. It was the same idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was it like when, having your own column and writing and in the way that you did and connecting with people and getting feedback from people? What was that like for you?
That was a ball, to be honest. I used to go around town, and people would stop me in the supermarket and say, that piece you wrote about how when your husband uses the TV remote, he just keeps scrolling so fast that it gives you vertigo. They'd say that is exactly what happened to me. Or, um, you know,
Yeah.
I wrote about once about a pair, looking for 2 weeks for a pair of Eddie Bauer chinos that I just couldn't find anywhere in the house. And I accused my husband of taking them because he's about the same size as I am, even though he usually doesn't wear my clothes. But I accused my daughters. After two or 3 weeks, I finally realized that I never had a pair of pants like that. I had a pair of black Eddie Bauer chinos and a pair of blue ones, but never a pair of tan ones. So that one was a column about losing your memory, losing your mind. But anyways, to get it back to your question, yeah, I would. My daughter used to make fun of me because my littlest daughter would be in the supermarket with me when people would come up and talk about the column. So she used to do this imitation of me in the supermarket saying, "Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad you liked it."
That is funny. I can relate to the remote story with your husband, and maybe it's a guy thing or something, that hunter gatherer kind of thing. So if you have the remote, you're like hunting to see what's going on. What are you missing? Going through all the channels. And I recall, of course, with my mother and father, where my mother would be in the middle of watching a movie, in the television in the living room. My father, if there's one of his major teams on, he grew up in New York, so the New York sports teams for him, but he would be in the den watching the Mets or whoever and the New York Rangers. And then when there was a break in the action, we'd go up to see what my mother's doing, and there'd be something he'd want to show her and would grab for the remote, and she'd be like, "Wait a minute, I'm in the middle of the movie. The movie's not finished yet." Something about the remote for me, I don't know what I do. I get involved in, I get distracted from just all the action going on, and I take the remote, which, all the remotes are always like a black color or dark gray.
Mhm.
And that remote ends up in every other room except for where it needs to be by the TV. And it's like, what happened to the remote? Where did that remote go? And it'll be upstairs, it'll be downstairs. I will have walked around with the remote and then place it somewhere, just like you do with your cell phone. You go on your cell phone hunt. But for some reason, I don't know why I take the remote to parts of the property where it doesn't need to be.
You need to get one of those. I see them online. I've never tried it. Little things where you stick on it or something, and so you clap or you whistle,
Yeah.
and it tells you where it is. I'm
Yeah.
not sure exactly how they work, but
It tells you where to go.
it tells you. Yeah, yeah. Well, like on our cell phones, if we lose those, at least
Yes.
somebody can call it, and
Yes.
sometimes that helps.
Right, exactly. That happens to me too. And I keep saying, and then the other thing is, I don't know what hits the floor the most, the remote or the cell phone. What ends up dropping on the floor, the remote control or the cell phone, both end up hitting the floor.
I do that too. I don't mean to, but I'm flinging it across the garage, and I don't know. I always have very good cases and those glass protectors, um, but they break, and
They do. Yeah. They don't last very long. Exactly. They don't last as long as that 1960s toaster. That's for sure. So, when did you decide, Nancy, with all this incredible writing background and with the humor bent, which I love, when did you decide, I think I'm going to write a novel? I think I'm going to take on the challenge of writing a novel. And what was the inspiration for Graceland? And congratulations on it.
thank you so much. Um, I don't know if you can hear a little buzzing in the background there. I'm going to try holding on, hanging up there. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah.
I had taken my phone off the hook for our talk, but for some reason it decided that it would just start buzzing. Okay.
Everybody's trying to order Graceland.
Uh, well, what a positive spin to put on my,
That's it. That's what I
my
do.
I like that.
Yeah.
Um, so I think I had always wanted to write a book. I had always wanted to be an author, and I just was not somebody who found time for it while my kids were growing up. I was either employed or I was doing my own freelance business, and more writing on top of that. There are some people who are able to do that, and bless them. They are able to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning and they write for 2 hours. And wow, I am so impressed by that. Other people are night owls and they'll stay up till midnight or 1. I was neither of those people. I was exhausted at the end of the day and needed my sleep. But as soon as my children, my 2 girls, had graduated from college, two separate things happened. Number one, I had just sort of run out of material because my girls were grown now, and I was tired of picking on my poor husband, writing columns about our battles over the thermostat, or our battles over where to go on vacation. So I thought, okay, now's the time that I can actually start trying to do this thing that really has been a lifelong dream for me. And
Yeah.
so that was the impetus for starting. And
No.
so I did leave my work. I worked for years in educational publishing, and I left my job with the express intention of writing a novel, and then discovered, well, it's harder than you think to do that. Takes longer than you think.
Yes, it really, really does. And do you like the house cooler or warmer with that thermostat?
My husband. I I have a friend who jokes that I'm a reptile. I'm never warm enough. I'm just
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
I like the house warm, and
Yeah.
my husband he likes it cool. But we've managed through a lot of years of marriage. So
You got it all worked out. So
yeah.
so tell us, I mentioned a little bit about the story, and I was sent the PDF, so I got a chance to read it. It's really delightful. Tell us about, the characters, the storyline. We don't want to give the whole thing away, but a little bit about how you came up with the idea, and the progression of the story, what the writing process was like, and the character development as well.
Okay, there's a few questions. Yeah, so I will say that it started as a story about mothers and daughters, basically, and in fact, a multi-generational mother-daughter grandmother story. I had in mind this. This family situation where the grandmother and the granddaughter are actually much more alike in their personalities, and they bond, and they take off together on some caper that the mother does not approve of, and so she's forced to chase after them. So that's how it started at the very beginning, and Graceland became the destination because, for a couple reasons. I I just think Graceland is so fun. For some people, it's campy. For other people, it's almost sacred. And I wanted the destination for my characters to be a little bit of both, honestly. And I also just liked that metaphor of Graceland, as you hinted earlier, that each of the characters on this journey, in their own way, are searching for forgiveness and grace. So that's how it all began. So, I mean, just to give the plot line in a single sentence, it is the story of a single mom who is forced to chase her Elvis obsessed mother and her pink haired teenage daughter to Memphis to stop them from revealing a long held secret. So that's the basis. It's not just a road trip; it's a road trip chase, which I think gives it sort of that fast-paced page turner kind of read. And yeah, it's a road trip chase from Boston to Memphis, with these 3 women who are at odds with one another, and each has her own agenda. So let's
It's like
see.
like a love story, right? For mothers and daughters.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's about how those relationships can be fraught, but they are grounded in love sometimes, more often than we acknowledge that they are. We
How
like to, complain about our mothers or our daughters, but there's very strong bonds there.
how much of this novel, when writing it, were you able to pull from your own relationships and your own experience with your family? Is there any of Nancy herself and her own daughters in this, in the characters?
I'm sure there is a little bit. I would say less with the relationship between my protagonist Hope and her mother, because her mother is nothing like mine. Her mother is Olivia Grant. She's a washed up former soap opera actress who starred for 35 years in this as the villainess in this long running soap opera. And now Olivia's older now. She's ailing. She's on oxygen, and she's the one that sparks this trip to Graceland. So the relationship between Hope, who does have some aspects of me as an author in her. Hope is a people pleaser. She's a little bit of an introvert, and she's just felt like she could never please her flamboyant soap star mother. But I think maybe more of my relationship with my daughters might figure into this. Neither of my daughters are teenagers anymore, but I think just the idea of that mother-daughter teenager interaction, where they're just constantly saying things to you like, "You're wearing that?" or
Yeah, right. It's funny how that role reverses, doesn't it?
it's true. It's true.
That is,
Absolutely.
you're wearing that.
You're
I mean,
wearing that.
I
You're,
remember there was a time, I don't know, something happened where my dad dropped me off at school. I think I had something to do, or there was an appointment or something. And so I didn't take the bus that day to school. So my dad, who happened to be off that day, said, I'll take you in the morning and drop you off. And this was in high school. And my father, being very, very supportive. He's a very supportive person and loving, always says, like, go get him, kiddo, and all those kinds of phrases, which I love hearing. He, um, he dropped me, pulled, no kid wants this, but he pulled up like right in front of the entrance of the school, like right where the other kids are hanging out. And he thought he was helping out, of course, but when you're a teenager, you don't necessarily want to be dropped off by your parent, maybe right in front of the entrance with the others standing there. What and then the pat on the butt, like, go get him, kiddo. like as if you're still 9. And I get it and I understand it and I love it and I appreciate it, but it was kind of like, Dad,
that's so
maybe
funny.
not now.
You made me remember something that I think I had totally forgotten, that whole drop off your kids at high school thing. My daughters used to be like, here, drop me here. Don't go any farther.
Don't go in the entrance or
Do
don't go
not.
to the front.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't it funny how that is?
Yeah.
And that's what's great about these kinds of tales, is because people can connect with it. And it can also, it could be a great escape for people too, when, the chips are down and people think the world can be, and all the craziness can be very overwhelming, to realize that other people go through these things too. And maybe the characters, in the texts are a little bit more animated as part of it, but still at the same time, there's a plug-in, there's a connection. And each of the characters in Graceland, as they are together, they're all going on their own individual personal journeys, right? Tell us about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Olivia, the washed up soap star, she's been obsessed with Elvis all her life. She began, collecting his records, and she, Elvis first bought Graceland, she saw it as a like heaven. She just
Yeah.
thought it was like heaven, and she wanted to marry Elvis, and he was going to be her personal savior. Well, fast forward a few years, and Olivia has become this famous soap star, and she does go on a date with Elvis, um, it's a key moment in her life. So a photographer captures a photo of her and Elvis together, and between Elvis being the king of rock and roll and Olivia being the queen of villainy, or the queen of something. I can't remember what I called her in the book, but yeah, the photo goes, viral, as in whatever way that was back then. And it's reprinted in Life's Photos of the Year, Life
Yeah.
magazine. Anyway, so that was Olivia's motivation. She has a few motivations for going back to Graceland, and we're not going to talk about all of them because there's some secrets in the book. There's some mystery and things that we want to reveal, but just suffice it to say that she wants to go back to see Graceland before she dies. And as I mentioned, she's ailing, she's on oxygen, she doesn't know how much longer she can make the trip, so
Mm.
she needs Hope to take her.
Yeah.
I'm going to skip over Hope to the daughter, Dylan. Dylan has recently found out that her mother has been lying to her basically all her life about her father. Dylan has discovered that, the story that her mother told her about her father, going off and living in a yurt in Alaska and dying in some whaling protest is not true. And so she's pretty angry with her mother. And when Olivia wants to go to Graceland, she tells Dylan that in Memphis, she can finally meet this mystery father. And so Dylan is now all in. She's gonna drive her grandmother to Memphis, and they both take off without telling Hope. So Hope's only goal is to stop them, because
Mm.
as you mentioned when you were reading the summary earlier, Hope left a secret in Memphis years ago. I like to say that 17 years ago in Memphis, Hope slept with the wrong man, basically. And so she left Memphis with, she was pregnant with her daughter, and she left with a secret agreement never to return to Memphis and never to reveal the father. So she has to stop her mother and daughter from revealing this secret.
Mm. There's a little teaser there for you, direct from the author herself.
Yeah. And I realize, and I'm saying that, I'm saying like it sounds like I've given away the secret, but
No,
I have not. There are
no,
many more. Yes, that
there
this is
are.
all just what gets them going on the road trip.
Gets things sort of underway.
Yeah.
What's nice about it too is even as it entertains with the colorful characters and the witty banter, and the fast pace and energetic plot that you prepared, the novel really delves into, which is great. It's sort of a message, underlying message along the way too. It sort of delves into the universal and deeply felt issues about identity and belonging, self-worth, things you hear people talking about in everyday society now, are being more open to talk about identity and feeling left out, or where's my place in the planet, on earth, what's my purpose, self-worth, and treating it all with sensitivity as well. Tell us about that aspect of it.
Yeah. Well, I think, authors have a couple of different purposes when we're writing. On the one hand, we want to write a compelling story. On the other hand, we do have a message that we're trying to get across. And for me, the book was always a book about identity. And each of the characters is sort of struggling with the same issue here, and that is to try to be who they truly are as opposed to who other people want them to be. And, just as an example, my main protagonist, Hope, is, has always felt like she was not the person who, the daughter who would please her mother. She felt like her mother wanted another extroverted person like herself, and Hope was quiet and introverted. So along this journey, each of the characters is dealing with that issue of being who they truly are versus who other people want them to be. And yes, one of the secondary characters is Hope's cousin, and Hope's cousin George, who cross dresses as Jordan. And George and Jordan use pronouns he or she depending on how they present. So I'm going to say she, because Jordan on the road trip is identifying as a woman. And Jordan is actually in a great position to sort of act as a foil for Hope, my protagonist. And because Jordan has dealt with this issue all her life, this idea of, am I able to embrace my own truth and be who I truly am, or am I going to try to please others and act like something other than who I feel like I am? So Jordan is a great person to be driving with Hope, because she constantly pushes Hope and challenges Hope and gets into little fights with Hope over things that Hope is doing that continues, where she's continuing sort of telling little lies and not really being her true self.
It's really amazing. When did you first think about writing this novel? Because so much that you touch upon with, the wit and the humor sort of blended in is so relevant and so topical for today's times anyway, and people discussing these issues. When did you decide to actually put this all down on paper in the way that you have?
Yeah, I started in 2015, and it's interesting because with Hope going on this road trip, chasing her mother and daughter, going on this road trip with Jordan, who is 6'5" and dresses as a woman, but is not, because of her size. It is often easy for people to tell that she's cross-dressing. It was, in 2015, I thought we were actually getting past the era where there would be issues with people who are, transgender or cross-dressing or drag queens or however they identify, using the bathroom according to how they present. But actually those issues in recent years have become even more of an issue recently, sadly.
It's amazing, how you thought of this so many years, almost 10 years earlier, and all of this has come to the forefront, like you say, on so many different levels. What is it? You've been a prolific writer for so many years and reached so many people. What was the feeling like for you when you completed the novel, published the novel, and now, of course, the novel, out and available? That had to be that feather in the cap, pinch me sort of moment, right? Especially for a writer, an author, to then have this novel, this phenomenal novel. What is that? What is that feeling like for you, Nancy?
Oh, it truly was a lifelong dream, Jim. I have to, I'll be honest. And yes, as a woman of a certain age now, it is so wonderful to be able to have done this, and I hope to continue doing this for many years going forward to write more. So I'm doing everything possible to make Graceland a success because we all know publishing. If I want to continue to write and publish more, I'm hopeful that people will buy and enjoy Graceland. But back to your question of how it feels. It's just been wonderful. When I was able to get Leanne Moriarty, the New York Times #1 best-selling author, to write a blurb for my book. It was, I think I ran around the house screaming. In fact, I know I ran around the house screaming. I was supposed to be on a Zoom for a Zoom meeting with a writing group, and I had taken out my contact lenses for some reason, and I was running around the house screaming for so long that when I finally got back and realized that I needed to be on this Zoom, my contact lenses had dried out, and
Tears of joy dried them out.
yeah, I,
Did the family know what you were screaming about, or
you
did
know,
they think that the fabric softener was misplaced and you were aggravated about it? Where were those dryer sheets?
my husband was actually at work at the time, but I swear to you, I scared the neighbor's dog by
Yeah.
all my screaming. I actually went outside and, kind of ran around the house.
The neighbors, oh, that's just Nancy again.
Yeah,
She's
she
doing,
does this periodically, and
yeah, she's
at
role
least she has
playing.
clothes on. We don't, it's
Yeah,
fine.
she's working out the character development. That's what she's doing. Uh, well, you mentioned Leanne Moriarty, #1 New York Times bestselling author, and she said about your novel, Graceland, she says, it's a sparkling, warm-hearted, witty debut. I so enjoyed joining these 3 generations of women on their action-packed road trip to Memphis. How cool is that, huh?
It was so cool, and it's another one of those stories that that proves the point that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, because
Yeah.
I had listed Leanne Moriarty as someone that I would love to blurb my book. But there were some people that my editor tried to approach, and there were other people that I was going to approach myself. And Leanne Moriarty was somebody that my editor thought, well, you maybe write to her, you. And so I was sitting on the sofa one night. I kept putting it off because I thought it's not going to work. She's not going to read my book. Sitting on the sofa one night, tired. I was done working for the day. It was 5:30. I was having a beer, and I said, "Oh, what the heck? I'm just going to write a letter to Leanne Moriarty." And it was actually to her agent, but I made it, truthful. I've always admired her work, and Leanne Moriarty is actually a very funny writer. People think
Hmm.
of her as suspense, but she's actually very funny, and I feel like there are similarities in her writing. So I wrote her a very heartfelt and I think humorous letter, and she responded. So it was great. Like I said, it's that concept of, if you don't try, you're not, you
You'll
can't get
never
it.
know. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. You got to be in it to win it, as they
yeah,
say, right?
right.
How did you come up with the design for the cover? The cover is fantastic. And you have the book there with you too, right?
You want me
Yeah.
to
Sure.
scroll?
There it is.
Which side? Oops, I'm not doing a good job with the camera here. Yeah, I have a poster too behind me. So you've got double Gracelands here. Um,
As
yeah,
we call it, double lovity.
yeah, double levity. Excellent. A whole new segment of your show. Um, as I mentioned earlier, I was in educational publishing for a long time. So I knew how to write a cover memo, and I knew exactly what I wanted. there's a certain style that that was getting to be prominent with what I'm going to call women's book club fiction, and you see it. I'm Shelby Van Pelt's novel about beautiful. I can't remember the name of it, of course, off the top of my head. But so many of the novels that you see out there today have these kind of bright, almost cartoonish colors, and I knew I wanted that. I knew I wanted pink because it was Elvis's favorite color, and so of course I'm doing author branding here. I'm doing my pink road trip.
You are on point. Absolutely. Marketing 101. Give her an A.
So that was how it started. I wrote a memo, and I showed HarperCollins, my publisher, like 5 or 6 different covers that were out there that I wanted it to look like, and they did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, they sure did.
The artists that they hired just completely nailed it in a way that I couldn't have asked for anything
never
better.
Dreamed up yourself.
Yeah.
Just even having a publisher and one, like HarperCollins, I mean, even that is always a hurdle for people too, to get a publisher to embrace the work and say, okay, we're willing to run with it and publish it. What was that process like for you?
Yeah, well, as you probably know, that the gatekeeper, the hardest part actually is getting the agent, because agents are the gatekeepers to most publishers, certainly the big 5 publishers. If you want to get a book published with a big 5 publisher, then you need an agent, and even most medium and some small publishers you do. So that was the hardest part for me. And it is for a lot of people. I think I queried agents. Of course, I started querying at a lovely time. It was February of 2020, and I don't know if that rings a bell for you, but yeah, it was the start of a very
it was, as they say, BC, which used to be before Christ. Now it's
before COVID. Yeah. Or it was just as COVID
was ramping up. Yeah.
So I'm querying people when agents and publishers are suddenly realizing that we're plunging into this pandemic. They have no clue what people are going to want to read, what they're going to be publishing. So I spent about 8 months querying agents, trying to get somebody, and I had quite a bit of attention. People asked for the manuscript, but nobody bit. And so I took it back and I worked on it for another year, tightened it up some more, had a developmental editor go through it one more time. And then after I tried querying again, I very quickly had success. So I think all those things helped. I think the timing helped. I think the tightening helped. Certainly never hurts to have a developmental editor look at your work.
I would imagine the support of friends and family, and as well, in addition, colleagues, in the industry. It's a beautiful thing too, to have that, right?
Absolutely. I have been so thrilled to start entering the author community. Of course, my friends, my book group, my writing groups, my family, they've all been supportive over the years, and I can't thank them enough. But what has been a revelation to me too is the whole author community and how people support each other and try to bring attention to the other authors that they're reading and that they're enjoying. And that has been just a really joyous process for me.
Now that you have the first one complete and out and available, do you see another one in the offing?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's my goal. I have started working on the beginnings of a new novel, um, and it will be sort of in the same genre. I think it's what I write is sort of I'm going to say humorous book club fiction. So it will be in that same vein.
Are you always, a lot of people who are artists in their different uh, genres of life are always soaking everything in. They're always observing, they're always watching, they're always feeling. And then they take those experiences, like you have with the newspaper columns, and of course, elements of that in the novel, and bring it to life through the art of what they do. In this case, it's this novel, and it's the humor columns and all the papers. Um, are you always watching and observing? Meaning, is there always material around you every day? You can be in a taxi cab, you can be at the supermarket, you can be anywhere, and your senses are heightened, and you're just watching. And I mean, that could be, oh, that's true. You know what I mean? I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I was even more aware of it when I was writing the columns than I am now. But yeah, if something would happen to me, and I realized that there was the basis there, not just of a funny story, but of a funny story that people would relate to. That, a lot of people have battles with their husbands over their spouses over the thermostat, or a lot of people have partners where he wants to go on a vacation that's hiking in the Himalayas, and I want to go on a vacation that's relaxing on a beach with a fruity drink, and um, somebody somebody giving me a deep tissue massage.
Right. One wants to go camping, the other one wants to go to a posh hotel. Um, then there's always the situation sometimes where you'll have where the person, maybe the guy, will say, as maybe dinner's being prepared, oh, well, my mother's gravy. That uh-oh. Well, if you like your mother's gravy, go to your mother. That's a universal,
Absolutely.
regardless of who's doing the cooking, right? It's just like, well, my mother adds a little more salt. Uh-huh. What are you saying?
Yeah, yeah. So
Tomorrow night dinner is McDonald's. You're on your own, kiddo.
yeah, it is those little incidents that when they happen, and you step back and you say, there's a universal truth in this. And I
Yes.
think that if I write about it, a lot of people are going to be nodding their heads. And I don't know about you, but I enjoy that in other people's writing too. I'll be reading a novel and I'll say, "Oh, I've thought that before."
Yes.
And sometimes I think, "Oh, I've thought that before. Wish I had said that."
Wish I had said that. Now, at the time of this airing of this broadcast, the book is readily available. Is it Amazon, Barnes and Noble? Where can people find the book, Nancy?
Absolutely, all those places, anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, at your local independent bookstores, which are one of my favorite places to buy books.
Are you doing book signings? Is there a little bit of a book tour at all happening?
There is, yeah, yeah. There's a book tour going on, and yeah, I've got some places around New England, and I'm going to some of my old haunts. In I used to live in Minnesota for a brief period of time, so we're taking a little trip to St. Paul, and
Wonder why you like everything warmer.
I
You,
know.
you lived in Minnesota.
Well, for someone who is always cold, the fact that I've lived in Massachusetts, went to school in Vermont, and lived in Minnesota for a few years.
Yeah,
It would make no sense, but I'm never getting my husband any farther south than this. So
it's funny because my mom is in Florida, but she's originally from Connecticut, and her family New England, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and the like. And since they moved there and had the home built in Florida, you figure the hardy New Englander, right? So now when they come to visit everybody up north here in the Northeast, for mom, if the temperature is below 72, she needs a light sweater.
Mhm. Oh,
And we're like, but wait, you're from the Northeast. You're used to the cold or the snow or the. She says, no, but when you move south, your blood thins.
that could be true. Yeah, I carry a sweater everywhere I go,
Everywhere.
or a sweatshirt, or a jacket. And I have to tell you that when I visit the South, because everything is air conditioned inside, it's actually worse for me,
Could
to
be
be
too
honest.
cold, right?
Yeah,
Too
people
cold.
people air condition their houses and stores to an extent that
Yeah.
I could be wearing my down jacket in there.
Yeah, you feel you're in the freezer section of the supermarket
Yeah.
constantly. Exactly. It's amazing. What do you hope are a few of the takeaways for the reader with Graceland?
That's a great question. Um, I mean, at a minimum, I do hope that people enjoy it. I recently heard from somebody who read a review copy, and she said that she read it in an afternoon because she couldn't put it down, and that was just wonderful. That's of course what authors want to hear. But apart from that, I think it has some meaty discussion questions involved in there. There is that theme of identity that I think a lot of us can approach from different angles. And there are some issues raised in terms of LGBTQ plus rights, and uh, the rights of ailing people like Olivia. And I don't want to go into too much detail there because I don't want to give anything away. But there's stuff to discuss.
Cool stuff. It's entertaining as much as it is gives us pause to think about life and our of relationships and how we are towards one another. And there's a lot of different variables in this novel. And your writing style is fantastic. I just love your writing style and the perspective that you have. Um, Also, the essays that you've done, I mentioned earlier at the top, they appeared in the Boston Globe and Writer's Digest and on WBUR's blog as well. Are you still doing any of that as well?
Yeah, a little bit actually. I just wrote a piece that will appear on WBUR's Cognoscenti blog, probably by the time this airs. Uh,
Terrific.
it actually deals with how people of my generation sort of had a love affair with the VW Beetle, and uh, I
Yes.
I talked about a very important bug in my life, and
Did you have one?
I did, yeah. My father came home one day with a hot yellow bug with beetle with a red racing stripe, and we all laughed because we thought he was going through a midlife crisis. But this was back in 1973, and it was there the gas crisis was the actual crisis back then, and he was smart to get a smaller car. But I loved that car, and it was what I learned to drive on, and what I taught, because it was a stick shift, and I taught all my friends to drive on it, and we just would stall it all around town. And when I went to choose a car for the getaway car, so to speak, for Graceland, it just seemed inevitable that it would had to be a car that the teenage protagonist Dylan would love, and so it ended up being a hot pink Beetle.
Wow, that is cool, huh? And no affiliation to Mary Kay Cosmetics.
Oh,
Is it- they,
oh,
yeah, I think what is it? They get a pink Cadillac, right? I think
oh,
it's
they get a pink
a
Cadillac.
pink
Yeah, yeah.
Cadillac. Yeah, if you're still,
No, no, this is a pink VW Bug,
how
which I
cool is
think,
it?
truthfully, I'm not sure that they made them in a hot pink, but we're assuming that this one was repainted by somebody over the years. It's a very old Beetle. Yeah.
How long did you have that car for?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't remember, but definitely from the time I was about, 12 or 13 till probably when I was in college at some point.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, your teenage car it always holds that special place in your life, right? The car that you went on dates in, and did you have a special car like that? And
My very first car um, was a Pontiac Firebird, and it
oh,
was white, and it had the blue racing stripe that went along the side and then up over the rear, the roof, but back towards where the window is, and then down the side. It was it had a rebuilt engine. It was like a certified pre-owned thing, and I saw it on the corner of somebody's house and one of the neighbors, and it was in beautiful, pristine condition. And I was, that age where I was, oh, that look at that, Dad, look at that car, Dad, look at that, and we ended up buying it, and I had it for a short time, and but that was the very first one, yeah. And you think about that, um, as the connection. But although there's another car I've had of the different cars I've had over the years, one of my favorite was a Volvo 850 GLT
mm,
that I had for almost 20 years. That ended up, it was a red one with the spoiler and really beautiful car, built like a tank. And it went at least 550,000 miles, and with it had a beautiful cream interior, the red outside, just really terrific GLT. And now those cars are very collectible. They're hard to find, that particular time period for Volvo. Um, I still miss that car. I still,
I think
um,
I remember. I mean, I'm not a car expert, but I think I remember that Volvo, and I think I even had a friend who had, if not that exact model, something very similar, and it did just, I don't know how many 100,000 miles, but it was a lot. Yeah.
they actually have they've got a club. It's it's like a Volvo club or something like that, where if you hit, I think it's not 100,000, I think 1,000,000 miles. Um, something happens. There was a guy recently, I saw it on the news. His Volvo hit 500. No, it hit 1,000,000. He was given a new Volvo.
Wow.
They actually gave him a new replacement car. Could you imagine that?
No. Kind of reminds me of that George Clooney movie where he's collecting frequent flyer miles and he's trying to get to 1,000,000 miles or something like that. And I yeah, I can't
That's
remember the name of the movie either.
so. When did you know that the novel was finished? One of the things is to know when to put the last period on the last sentence. When were you comfortable with that, saying, I'm done, that's good, we've reached, I can walk, maybe a rewrite or two, but I'm good with it? When did you know you were finished and it was you were good with it?
Yeah, that's a great question because I certainly had friends and family who thought that I was tinkering with this for way too long. But you do know, at least I knew as an author, where I wanted it to be before I started going out to query agents and publishers with it. And I don't know how to describe it, but it's one of those, when you get there. So that was where I was feeling just before February of 2020 when I started querying. But I have to say that even after that, and I did take it back for a while and work on it some more. And at each stage, there was a point where I felt like, okay, I'm happy with the way it is. And you do, at each stage, you feel like you're happy, and then you have an agent, or you have an editor, or you have somebody who says, okay, but how about this? Can we tweak this just a little? And you say, yeah, you're right. That would, I like it as it is, but that would be even better. And that was the process that I went through with my agent and my editor just before publication. And there weren't too many changes, but their suggestions were good ones. And I took it back and, went through that however long they give you to do that, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, I can't recall. You tweak it again, and till you're happy with it.
Until you're happy with it.
Till you're happy. Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily have the red stripe, but we pulled this up just to be a little nostalgic for you.
Oh.
And then you said, is there possibly a pink one? There are actually a few pink ones out there. This is one of the later models. Isn't that cool? The pink beetle.
That is, yeah. It doesn't say what year that is, does it? The one in the book is a 1998 beetle.
I think this is 2017, this particular one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they redid I think they stopped making the classic ones.
Yeah, they've stopped making the Beetles completely. And
that's
what my car, the Volvo 850 GLT, looked like. It's not the exact picture. This is like more of the Volvo promotional one, but that's the one that lasted the 550,000 miles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that is different than the one I was picturing, because the one I was picturing is a wagon.
Oh, there was a lot of those too. Matter of fact, we purchased that Volvo at a dealership in Southern Connecticut that was co-owned by Paul Newman, who lived, of course, with Joanne Woodward, his wife, in Westport, Connecticut, and they oversaw the Westport Country Playhouse. And he was 50% owner in the dealership. And because he used to race Volvos, and he would race the wagons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
He was a big car guy. I forgot that. I was
very
thinking,
much so.
What I was thinking, he had his hand in so many things,
so many things.
Spaghetti sauce and
that's right. Yeah, and the salad dressing and the camp Hole in the Wall for kids with cancer, which is in north central Connecticut, and a lot of the proceeds from the sauce and from the salad dressings are to help Camp Hole in the Wall. Real give back type of guy.
He's a fabulous guy. Yeah, I mean, not that I knew him personally, of course, but I just always admired him in every way.
Now, we're talking Graceland here. Were you an Elvis fan?
I always enjoyed Elvis's music, but I became a much bigger fan while this was going on. I read a lot more about Elvis, and I visited Graceland twice. And I've been telling people that this is true, that Elvis came to me in a dream early on when I started writing. And once I decided the destination was Graceland, I had a dream that I was dating Elvis, which was kind of a bizarre dream because, I'm married and he's dead. But apart from that fact, it was interesting. And it was one of the things that made me think, well, there are people still alive who did date Elvis.
Yes.
Obviously Priscilla's still with us, and his fiance, when he died, Ginger Alden, is around. But I was even thinking about, women that, he dated for shorter periods of time, or just invited back to the hotel room to hang out with him and what is his group that they called the Memphis Mafia.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. Yes.
Were
Yeah.
you ever an Elvis fan?
Yeah, I've always admired my mother very much so, and the Righteous Brothers and that whole time period. And my father, more the big bands and
My father too. Yes,
Perry
absolutely.
Como, the Andy Williams, more of that genre. So actually, growing up, we were exposed to all of it, which is kind of unique. You know what I mean? The different time periods, which I think is kind of great. And are you a music lover? I love music.
Yes, I do, but I have very eclectic tastes. And what's interesting about Elvis is I have two older sisters, and we're separated by a number of years. My oldest sister is 16 years older than I am, and my middle sister is 9 years older than I am. And so it's actually my oldest sister who had the Elvis records. He was more her generation, and then my my middle sister was more in the 60s and the Beatles, and I was more in the 70s with well, I started out with the Monkees. They were my favorite, but remember earlier we were talking about the Partridge Family, and then moved on to some more classic bands of the 70s.
Casey and the Sunshine Band and
Yeah.
ABBA.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Chicago. I got into Billy
yeah. The
Joel and
Eagles and
yeah, the Eagles, absolutely.
mhm.
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
All of the good, yeah, fantastic stuff. And when you hear it on the air or you just play it, it makes you feel good. We've had a lot of people on the show who are in the music world as well. Some have been musicians in those bands and others. And we talk a lot about how that all this kind of music makes you feel really good. And do you play an instrument at all?
I don't. I don't. Do
Mm.
you?
A guitar and studied violin when I was a kid and piano. And but the piano I'd like to get even more involved with. Basically, it's by ear. And when we would go up to Massachusetts to my aunt and uncle's house, my aunt, who's originally from Vienna, Austria, in off the side of the dining room, there's this beautiful upright piano. And as a kid, one of the first things I would do when we would arrive at their house, her home, very Austrian looking, flowers everywhere, and a lot of dishes and all kinds of things that she brought over from Austria, from Vienna. So it has this very warm sort of home and hearth sort of feel to it. And I would, before the luggage was even dropped, I would dart off right into that dining room, which they would let me do. Make sure I didn't bang into any of the beautiful china, but go right to that piano and open the lid and just start. And I still remember it because I have it on cassette because I was probably ever the broadcaster in advance,
Mhm.
recording and documenting things. So I would record myself doing it. So I have cassette tapes of me like around age 12, 13, toying around by ear on their Uncle Fred and Aunt Dorothy's piano in Massachusetts. And some of the first things that I did was, of course, Heart and Soul. Da, na, na, da, na, na,
Mhm.
na, na, na.
Mhm.
And the theme to All in the Family. Da, na, 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 because it was something that you could
Yeah,
do relatively easily on the piano. It's amazing, these little nuggets of life, huh? You got to soak it all
yeah.
up. We're in a time where everybody's running around, everybody's chasing everything, everybody's angry and frustrated and all this other. And I even say this just coming off, when you're driving and you go on the highway and how unreal it is right now, the way people are driving, the speeding, the cutting each other off, the tailgating, the no signal lights, the anger that you see everywhere that is being displayed. And I say, we've all been through what's happened in the last couple of years. And as opposed to being angry and upset about it, and we lost time or what have you, or maybe lost money, let's come together and bring it all together because the earth spins a lot smoother on its axis when we are together, when we, play off each other, when we communicate with one another, when we don't just talk, but we listen and we not extreme here or extreme there. We come together. And I think that's so important in our society. And we need to remind ourselves, grab a good book like Graceland, or put your feet in the sand, go out to nature, call your family. Got to be a little bit more kinder and empathetic, maybe sort of bring some of that back. Maybe that is sort of old school. Maybe some will say that's Pollyanna. You know what? I don't mind a little sprinkle of Pollyanna in our world. Hey, if you grew up with Brady Bunch, Partridge Family, and all that other, it's built in.
That's very true. Yeah, I think I'm quoting the Dalai Lama who says, "My religion is kindness," and I think you're absolutely right with that. That's the most important thing we can do for one another.
Absolutely. We touch upon it a lot in the various shapes and forms here on the Jim Masters Show series. Nancy, this was really a delight. Like I say, these aren't really interviews. These are sort of patterned after like Dick Cavett and Johnny Carson and some of the legendary talk show hosts, where they're really conversations. So in this case, they know about the book. I know our very, very active viewing audience, the Lovities, commenting throughout the show, which we always appreciate. They're very proactive. So if they haven't already ordered it, they're going to be ordering it real soon, because they love, when the guests are on. And this really was a terrific, as I call it, conversation. And now they know a little bit more about the person behind the art, behind the work, what motivates you, what inspires you. And it makes the experience richer when they now consume your art, your product. They read the book and they enjoy it. They'll remember the conversation that Jim and Nancy had on the show, which adds a deeper element to the whole picture. At least that's how I like to do it. So really appreciate your stopping by the show and spending this time with us.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. This has been wonderful. It's been a lot of fun. And thank you. If somebody also, picks up the book because of our conversation, that's wonderful. But
absolutely,
it's been a pleasure regardless.
Do mention that you heard about it on the Jim Masters Show live series, everybody. We would love that. And there's Nancy's website as well, if you want to learn more about the book and Nancy's incredible background in journalism and more. And hopefully we're not too far from one another. Maybe one of these days we'll split a bowl of clam chowder.
That sounds like it would be great.
Yes.
Let me know if you're ever in town up in the Newburyport area.
Yes, it's a beautiful spot to be. And do you ever go up to Portland, Maine? You're not too far from there.
Yeah.
Isn't that a great spot?
That's a hopping spot these days. That's where all the young folk want to live. Yeah.
It's really, and it's got a little bit of a modern twist, but it still has that New England seafaring cobblestone street vibe to it that I think people find so appealing. I know every time I've been there, we've either visited or been on actual TV shoots there as well. I've always enjoyed the time in Portland and that whole area. So you're not far from that at all.
No, it's a gorgeous, I was gonna say gorgeous little town. It's a gorgeous small city, I guess.
And it sounds like you're going to be heading not too long from now up to Sandwich, New Hampshire, to the Lakes region to see John Davidson.
Absolutely.
That's it.
People learn all sorts of things on your show.
They really do. Thanks for all the time. I hope the show met whatever expectations you had, Nancy, and you enjoyed the time with me as much as I absolutely have with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
The pleasure is all mine. You be well. You take care. Congratulations on the novel. And let's definitely stay in touch. If you know other folks you think would like to stop by the show, they are welcome to join us. And we'll have you back down the line. I welcome that. We'll keep the porch light on for you, as I like to say.
All right. Oh, that's sweet. I like that metaphor. Keep the porch light on for me. Thank you.
Absolutely. You be well and you take care, okay?
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
Take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Wow, fantastic conversation, right? If you want to know a little bit more about Nancy Crochiere, there is the website right there on the screen. Celebrated humor columnist, as well as novelist, author of Graceland. Now you know a little bit more about the book and about the author, the novelist, and it's kind of cool, huh? Let's take a look close up at the book as well. One more time. Here it is. She even gave us a little backstory to how the cover was designed, which was really, really cool. So pick it up at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the places where you find books. Look for it possibly in bookstores near you. She's doing a little bit of a New England tour, some of the great bookstores in the New England area. New England, of course, for those of you watching around the world who are saying, what is he talking? What is New England? New England is the northeastern part of the United States that encompasses Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. New York starts the middle Atlantic states. Cool stuff. Really terrific to have her on the show. And I was excited to have her here. I love her wit and wisdom and her take on life. And she obviously loves sharing her art with the readers and with the world. So was this delightful or what, gang? Really a pleasure to have Nancy on the show. If you enjoyed this episode, there is something you can do if you want to be proactive. Give this episode a like on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, where there's almost 1,000 episodes of the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Celebrity Talk Show series. Thumbs up, like, leave a comment on the channel. We would love that. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost anything. Really, really a pleasure when you get a chance to do that. We thank everybody who has done that as well. And, we've been celebrating the Jim Masters Show Live series with so many of our celebrity guests. Matter of fact, we even did a 3-year anniversary special. If you didn't see it, take a look at that episode. Really, really a lot of fun. And we heard from so many of our amazing guests. We heard from people like the incomparable Melissa Manchester.
Hi, this is Melissa Manchester. Happy 3rd anniversary, Jim Masters. I'm so happy for your achievements thus far with no end in sight. I was delighted to be invited to be on your show twice, and we had a lovely time discussing my career and achievements. And what struck me was how delightful the tone was. It was not, you were not looking for any gotcha moments. You, Jim, are interested apparently in restoring the art of conversation, and with that, the concept of levity, which I just find charming and encouraging and delightful. So I look forward to chatting with you again, dear Jim, and congratulations again for making a space where people can share their ideas, where you can ask thoughtful, probing questions to see how we're all doing on our paths, our parallel paths. So wishing you many, many more happy anniversaries. Long may levity wave, and you too. Be well.
Pretty special, huh? Yeah, we appreciate all this from our wonderful guests. Lucy Arnez also celebrating what we do here, and we celebrate Lucy.
Hey, Jim, congratulations. That's quite a milestone. I've always enjoyed talking to you. You do a great show. Positive, optimistic, interested. You do your homework. We love being with you, and I hope we get a chance to do it again sometime. With love from Lucy Arnez and Larry Leckenbill.
Right back at you, Lucy. Just a few of the guests who have graced us with their wit and wisdom and their presence here on the Jim Masters Show. Hey, if this is your first time joining us here at JMS, we welcome you. We always have a good time here. And our guests come from Broadway and Hollywood and television and film, child stars, authors, health and wellness gurus, and comedians, musicians, actors, actresses. The lists and the genres that we have covered, quite extensive. And from Broadway, Hollywood, television, film, music, stage, sports, comedy, culinary arts, it amazes me. It's really cool stuff. So go back and take a look at the archives. If you haven't seen some of the other episodes, if this is your first time here at our Entertainment Lifestyle Celebrity Talk Show series, we welcome you. If you enjoyed this episode, thumbs up, like, and of course, give us a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We would love it if you also let everybody know about our series. You can share the links to the episodes on your social media. Thanks to all of you who have been doing that. Thanks to everybody for their fabulous comments during this episode of our show in the Lovely Hall chat room. We love that. And if you didn't get a chance to do that, do leave a comment. Or if you did, actually, if you also left, a comment in the Lovely Hall chat room while the show is on, and you would like to also leave a comment underneath the episode, we would love that too. We would love any of that. That helps us continue to grow. So that's a wrap for this episode, gang. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Jim Masters. Thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, always a pleasure. We love you all, and we don't say goodbye around here. We say see you later. Ciao, cheers, sláinte, shalom, sayonara, aveda hasta la vista, cheerio, hejda, moi loop, and take care and be well. I'm Jim Masters, and we love having you here. And don't forget to relax. Don't forget to take care of one another, love one another, and take time for yourself. Go get a copy of Graceland, dig in, and enjoy. And if you do get a copy of it, let them know that you heard about it here on the Jim Masters Show live series as well. We'll see you on the next episode, okay? Much, much more coming your way of great content and terrific episodes to entertain, inspire, and have a good time together here on the Jim Masters Show. We'll see you again soon. Be well. Cheers.